You ever wake up to the sound of engines rumbling outside your window before sunrise, before coffee, before your brain's even halfway online? That's how my war started. Blue lights bouncing off the lake, red strobes dancing through the slats of my cabin window. I thought for a split second maybe there'd been an accident on the road. Then I saw her. Clipboard queen chin so high it looked like she was sniffing for trouble. Bethany Crowell, the HOA president, here to let me know I was trespassing on my own damn land. You heard that right. Trespassing. On the very shoreline my father left me. I'd lived on that patch since the day he handed me the keys, and the Carters had owned it for 60 years. But there she stood, boots crunching in the gravel, reciting her script. As of last year, Heron Ridge HOA expanded its shoreline management boundaries. This cabin falls under community authority. She flashed some folder like it was the Constitution itself, expecting me to just roll over and hand her the deed. Now the cops' two deputies weren't sure what to do. They asked for proof. So I grabbed the deed from inside my gun safe, that original paper with my dad's signature, county seal, parcel number. I handed it over, watching the deputy's eyes linger on every line. "Looks valid," he said. "Bethany." She just brushed past it. "Irrelevant," she sniffed. The board voted. "We're trying to prevent environmental damage. He refuses inspections." I looked right at her. "Bethany, my dock is older than you, and you've never set foot here before." She didn't care. For her, authority wasn't about truth, it was about whose signature got stamped on the right paper. I should have been drinking coffee on the porch, watching the mist curl off the lake, the air crisp with the scent of wet pine. Instead, I was collecting survey flags that had appeared overnight, driven straight into the soil by someone too cowardly to come in daylight. Fresh plastic, bright orange, all in a clean line cutting across my land toward the water. Not a county color code either. These were HOA contractors, or worse, someone Bethany paid under the table. By now I knew she wasn't acting alone. This wasn't just about my dock. It was about redrawing the map one little stake at a time until what's mine was theirs. I called Sarah Whitfield, best attorney within 100 miles and sharp as a barbed wire fence. She took one look at the flags and said, "They're staking a new shoreline, planning to present a new parcel boundary." "That's fraud," I said, heat flaring in my chest. "Strategic fraud," she replied. "If the paperwork moves, the county follows, even if the waterline hasn't budged an inch." Sarah fired up her laptop and dove into the county parcel system. My parcel number. My land. Except on the map, 60 feet of lake suddenly crawled onto my property, and the margin notes listed the HOA as the new authority. A fresh stamp from the county hydrology office, even though those guys never issue shoreline jurisdiction stamps. The whole thing was forged. We printed every fraudulent file and stacked them up. "This isn't a squabble anymore," Sarah said. "They're laying groundwork. If they claim easements, they'll force access through your land. And if they force access, they take the cove." I finished. Bethany called as if on cue. "Since you've chosen to ignore our notices, expect a formal violation this afternoon. And by the way, those flags you pulled out, destruction of community property." That night, after a day of barricades and threats, I caught 3 inspectors snooping around my dock, under the moonlight, flashlights bobbing feet trying not to crunch gravel. "Water compliance inspection at midnight," I called out. They scattered like raccoons when I confronted them, one dropping a laminated water safety violation sheet as he ran. That was the pattern, pressure from every angle until I either caved or snapped. But what they didn't count on was my old man's paperwork habit. At the bottom of his battered chest, buried beneath 50 years of receipts and sketches, I found a metal lockbox. Inside, a county-stamped, notarized agreement from 1973 granting my family exclusive water access rights to the cove forever. Not a lease, not a permit, exclusive rights. That meant the shoreline dock and 30 yards out into the water. HOA couldn't touch it. When Sarah read it, her eyes went wide. This isn't just helpful, it's a weapon. Suddenly everything snapped into focus. The HOA's new advisor, Marcus Hale, a man with developer swagger and zero conscience, showed up next. With the right development, this cove could be a major attraction, he said, making it clear what the game really was. He offered me a buyout. "Everything has a price," he said. "Not this," I replied. That day I let him read the 1973 agreement. His hands trembled just a little when he reached the signature. "This complicates things," he murmured. Sarah grinned. "No, it ends things." But the attacks didn't stop. HOA vehicles rolled in installing illegal fences, posting $500 fines, even flying drones over my shoreline. One drone crashed right outside my cabin, high-end developer grade with a hail development sticker. Now they were mapping my land at night, gathering evidence for their case. Meanwhile, neighbors like Mrs. Halverson and Mr. Garcia started coming forward, clutching HOA fines for mailbox height, paint color, a truck parked too long. It wasn't just me, they were bleeding the whole neighborhood, making us look delinquent so a developer could call the place non-compliant and force a buyout at pennies on the dollar. By the time the emergency HOA meeting rolled around, the community center was packed. Bethany and her lawyer tried to railroad me, projecting photoshopped images of my dock, muddy water, fake runoff, even a red circle around a phantom pipe. They presented fake bacterial data numbers that repeated in identical columns as if someone got tired of copying and pasting. The crowd was restless. That's when an older board member, Harold, quietly slid me a note. Check her financials. Start with environmental consulting. I held my ground. Showed the real photos, the evidence of drones, the water rights agreement. Then Sarah exposed Bethany's digital fingerprints on the altered maps. The crowd exploded. Bethany tried to regain order. She was done. Next morning, county trucks pulled up. Inspectors combed my property, cataloging every illegal fence, measuring every fraudulent survey stake. When Bethany stormed onto the scene, waving a federal environmental authority order, the inspector took one look and said, "The director who signed this retired 10 years ago." The crowd erupted. Bethany's face collapsed as the inspector announced, "Presenting falsified federal documentation is a criminal offense." The dominoes fell fast after that. County officials seized HOA records, financials, even the surveillance equipment. Marcus Hale got cuffed. Bethany was removed as president. My neighbors, who'd been hiding in their homes for months, finally stood together and watched the storm break. That night, for the first time in weeks, I slept easy. The lake outside my window was calm, no drones, no searchlights, no fear. The next morning, Sheriff Morales knocked. "We're taking down the last of the HOA structures today," he said. Piece by piece, the barriers fell away. The lesson in all this: it's easy to think land can be stolen with paperwork and pressure, that legacy can be erased with a couple signatures and a fake map. But when a community wakes up, when people remember what's theirs, when they stop bowing to bullies, no amount of bureaucracy or bluff can stand in their way. Justice didn't ride in on a white horse. It crawled out of the mud, slow and battered, but when it stood for good. My land, my legacy safe. Not because I fought alone, but because I fought right, and because others found the courage to join me. So here's my question for you. At what point do we stop letting authority trample on what's right? When does a line in the dirt become the line we refuse to let them cross? If you've ever stood your ground against an HOA, a developer, a bully, a boss, tell me about it. Drop your story in the comments. And if you believe in fighting for what matters, stick around. Because stories like this, they're not going away. Not as long as there are lakes to defend, legacies to protect, and people ready to say, "Not this time."